Hey there, welcome back to Total Geek Live, Baltimore Presents. I'm Baltimore, and today I am bringing you Fantastic Four Grand Design. That's a two-issue miniseries written and drawn by Tom Scioli. This is actually in the vein of X-Men Grand Design, where Ed Piskor, cartoonist, basically distilled the entire X-Men universe into six two-issue miniseries. This one is actually just the Fantastic Four. And it's just those two issues, and the X-Men Grand Design before you, you have really great cartoon style narrative going on here. I really like I said before, I really like the Grand Design series because you get to kind of have a full narrative approach to the entire story. You kind of get to get the overall story of, for this instance, Fantastic Four, with one theme going throughout, one narrative voice, one narrative story going throughout all the issues that are in these. So it kind of gives life to kind of smooth things over. It gives an ability to show the audience maybe a little bit more truth to the story, how they kind of develop throughout their decades of publication. Um, Again, it's got this great pulp paper feel and look, and it is a little bit different from X-Men Grand Design. There's a little less meat, I feel like, in these issues than X-Men Grand Design. That's not necessarily a bad thing, just something to be noticed. But they are very dense. It's very, very full of panels. You get something, you get a page like this one where it's just, it's all just panels. And that's it. 5 panels, 5 each, 25 a grid. So it's very, very small panels, so you get very little cartoons or drawn images, and you kind of have to get the story narrated above that. And so I do kind of think that this was not as great as the X-Men Grand Design one. I do think it was really exciting. I like that it kind of told an entire story of Fantastic Four within these two issues. And of course, you get the additional reading information in the back where they pulled these issues and the story from. So you kind of get a little bit more. And you can always get them, on Marvel Unlimited, so you have that kind of thing for you. But it basically goes through a little bit before Fantastic Four #1, which is the first family of Marvel. It's when basically the Silver Age of Marvel begins, with Fantastic Four shooting into space and getting hit by cosmic rays and developing their powers. So that's kind of always the benchmark for any origin and moving forward with the Fantastic Four. So these are two oversized issues. I feel like they probably could have used one more and kind of give it a little bit more depth to each of it. Sometimes it feels like with just one little panel going sequentially, it loses a little bit of the overall story. And like X-Men Grand Design before, I'll keep referencing it. Like X-Men Grand Design, this one is a little bit of a takeoff. There's a little bit of a, that's not quite how it happened issue with these. And while I felt that the X-Men Grand Design one was a little bit more successful in the way that they kind of approached that time alternate little the alternate way they were telling the story, this one I didn't think was as good. I didn't think it was as quick or as agile to tell the story in a kind of twisty way, but still getting the same kind of like, oh yeah, I read these issues and I know this is what happened. Well, I read these issues and I know that's not quite what happened. And even with the twist at the end, it's not quite satisfying. I feel like there's a little bit left to be desired. Although, the art itself I really enjoyed. I wish there's a little bit more detail in each of it, but of course, when you have a 25 grid panel layout, you're not going to be able to get as the level of detail that you would be accustomed to or think about. But when you're seeing the story as told, you know, um, in this manner, I kind of can forgive it a little bit. Kind of can agree that we're not going to get everything, but this is a pretty dang good uh, way to go to see it through. Um, you get the Galactus origin, which is awesome. That kind of like I am Galactus, moment. You obviously get the Doctor Doom and all of his, shenanigans going on there, which is really cool to see him kind of being more intertwined, which he obviously is. And you get a lot of Namor, surprisingly, a lot more Namor than I was anticipating. And you get the Eternals, you get the Inhumans, you get the Celestials, you get the origins of Atlantis coming into it, which is kind of cool to kind of get more of that. We get the Skrulls, we get the Kree, you get Black Panther, you get Silver Surfer, who is really a lot of fun in this, and you get to see a lot more of him. He has a lot more personality than I had originally imagined him to be, having in this kind of Fantastic Four space. And you get a little bit of the origins of Shield. So overall, you get a lot of Marvel history scooped down into these 2 issues of Grand Design. And I thought he did a great job about getting it all there while telling from this particular narrative focus. So that was a kind of a highlight for me, seeing them kind of explore each of these, and seeing what made more sense to him to tell as opposed to this issue or this storyline. Is that as important as the Puppet Master is more important than Alicia Masters? Not quite. I don't quite think so. But there was a lot more time devoted to Puppet Master than to Alicia, so that was something I kind of felt was a misstep, perhaps. Um, I do think there were some really good call outs. You get to see Herbie, and then you get to see the Thing Ring do your thing, and that was a great little moment there, and you get to see. I'm not going to spoil it, but you're going to see who each of those 4 Thing members are, which is really a pleasant treat and a very nice homage to the creators. So I'll let you see that in the Grand Design issues, but you get to see the birth of Franklin Richards, and of course that's a pivotal moment. A lot of people have theorized that Franklin Richards is the linchpin of the Marvel universe. It's kind of never really. It's the reason why it never ages a lot. He kind of perpetually keeps people in the same kind of status quo, and because he is so powerful, his abilities, leach out and affect everything, slowing time down and kind of giving the illusion that everything kind of stays the same. One thing I did kind of like at the very end, you get to see some touches of Days of Future Past, which he's a part of, so that was kind of cool. And then you get, 2 issues. Another issue would have helped, I think, kind of space this out so it wouldn't have been so crammed and so full, a stockpile of everything. But it's not a bad thing. You get to see Secret Wars for a little bit, the 80s version, not the Secret Wars that happened in the 2000s. So that was kind of neat to see. But, while there were a lot of liberties taken here, I do think it kind of, it gets him where he wants to go. Tom is using these stories as basically what he's retelling, but he's also, being respectful to the source material and giving it its own kind of twist, his own reasoning for why this story is happening and how it kind of gets back to what we all know and love of the Fantastic Four. So, you have Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny, the Fantastic Four. You get to see Crystal. You get to see a little bit of She-Hulk, not too much. And this doesn't go through the entirety of the Fantastic Four continuity and issues, which I was kind of feeling was a little bit of a mistake. Whereas whereas the X-Men went from 1 to 270 of all of their issues, so I do think this could have been expanded a little bit more and allowed for a lot more depth to all the Fantastic Four that have been that have gone on. All the iterations, all the different characters that have come to be important. So that would have been kind of nice to have seen a little bit more. But Tom does a really great job. I love his narrative voice. I love the way that he shapes the series itself. And while I think it would have been a little bit better if he had a little bit more, page that weren't so, stuck with everything. I do think he's done a great job, and it feels like there's an opportunity to have more grand designs in the future. Maybe the Avengers could use one, perhaps. That would be nice to see. But overall, I really did like Fantastic Four Grand Design, but I want to know what you think about it. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Or do you have a little bit of the same complaints as I did about the pacing of it and the sizing? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will be back soon to bring you more Marvel goodness. As always, it's all geek to us.